Hey guys, Kursk here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is August 6th, 2024, and let's get to the news and map updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? And we'll start with some very interesting dynamic news today. And pro-Russian channels claim that the Kursk oblast is undergoing a special military operation. And it appears that this time there was a breakthrough that has been achieved by Ukrainian forces towards the city of Sudzha, a city of about 6,000 people. What is interesting this time is that, yes, in the past, there have been border raids within Russia, but they've been mainly conducted by the Free Russian Legion, a Russian legion consisted of Russian soldiers. This time, this appears to be Ukrainian forces. Now, we have some very good pictures from this operation that just started today. The Russians claim that they've lost 2 helicopters already, meaning that the Ukrainian forces were well equipped and well prepared to meet the enemy. They also mentioned that before doing this incursion, the Ukrainians launched a massive FPV drone attack on Russian positions within the border between Ukraine and Russia, which allowed the Ukrainians to effectively destroy Russian positions, Russian bases, and things like that. And also that they lost a few tanks that they were trying to move closer to the front line because the Ukrainians launched this FPV drone attack on Kursk. So overall, really great, in my opinion. I think that this is a great operation by the Ukrainians. I know that there's a lot of people saying right now that this is not a smart idea. Ukraine's already stretched thin. They should have allocated these troops towards Pokrovsk, New York, and Toretsk, which is the problematic front that we've talked about in the past. And let me show it to you guys, because indeed the Russians here are making some gains every single day. You can see that in the direction of New York, the Russians have consolidated more ground, this kind of no man's field, no man's land in the eastern side of New York. So I believe that they will be able to consolidate, take New York, because there's also a video that was released by the Russians today showing that they put a flag in one of the central buildings of the city of New York. So unfortunately, they're having success, but a lot of people are saying that the Ukrainians could have utilized these Ukrainian forces that are currently, doing a breakthrough in Sudzha, in this sector, in Pokrovsk. And I don't really agree with that. And you guys can let me know in your comment section if you agree or you don't. But I think that the element of surprise is extremely important. And this is what allowed the Ukrainians to have so much success and breaking through in the area of Sudzha so well. Within, this is a good 7 to 10 kilometers that the Ukrainians were able to penetrate. And who knows, right now, there is silence. Nobody's really claiming where the Ukrainians are, and it should be that case. But clearly, the Ukrainians have been able to break through a few kilometers. I don't think they would have been able to do that in the Pokrovsk, Toretsk area. This is an area that the Russians are well prepared. They are definitely anticipating that the Ukrainians will attempt to do a counterattack here. And so this will be much more difficult for the Ukrainians to just move a bunch of troops and then have some success in driving back the Russians up to Ocheretine or Avdiivka. It simply would be too difficult. Look at the concentration of Russian troops here. They have so many units, so many brigades in this sector alone. You can see why they're having success. They're just moving meat infinitely. There is literally, the concentration of force here is massive. And that is one of the reasons why they're having success. And so the Ukrainians need to utilize the element of surprise sometimes to their advantage. And I think that you can see that due to the lack of Russian presence in the northern sector of Ukraine, that is Sumy and Chernihiv, there is an element of surprise that can be achieved by the Ukrainians. And I think that, in my opinion, right now, this is a good idea. And only if the Ukrainians are able to hold this territory long term, it would make sense. But it remains to be seen how effective it will be. I'm not claiming anything right now. I don't want to sugarcoat it. So far, it's going well, based on the Russians panicking on Telegram channels. But I really hope that this time the Ukrainians, because this is a Ukrainian grouping, they'll be able to hold on to this area long term and embarrass the Putin regime, because he's been claiming that he wants to create a buffer zone within Ukraine, but now the buffer zone has reversed in Russia, and the Russians are already feeling it within Belgorod because of their incursion in northern Kharkiv. And now the Ukrainians are flying FPV drones after FPV drones within Belgorod and making life as miserable as possible for the locals and also Russian logistics in the sector. So that is to say that I support this operation. I think this is a risky move by the Ukrainians, but risks need to be taken. Ukraine has been playing safe very, very long for the last few months, even I would say as early as winter 2023, you've seen that the Ukrainian forces have taken a step back due to the reduction of help it's received by the United States. And now is the time for Ukraine to take risks, calculated, of course, but risks need to be taken. So you guys can let me know if you think this is a good operation by Ukraine, or you think that this is not a great operation. Ukraine should have focused on another front. We'll see. Now, let's go back to the news, and I'm going to go back to my slides because I wanted to share some disappointment with you guys, but it's not like it's unexpected. So, Ukraine had a chance to blow up Russia's best warplanes on the tarmac. The White House said no, and now it's too late. So, apparently, a few months ago, the Ukrainians asked the White House and the Biden administration to strike a Russian base in Voronezh, the Malshevo air base, that is in southern Russia, about 100 miles from the border with Ukraine, with the ATACMS, the Army Tactical Missile System. But you could have already guessed, but the administration of Joe Biden said no, our policy has not changed, and essentially Ukraine is only allowed to use the ATACMS at targets in Russian-occupied Ukraine. So, of course, this is a disappointing news. You know that the Russians right now are having success in Pokrovsk and the New York sector, and also a little bit in Chasiv Yar because of these Su-34s dumping glide bombs. They're very, very destructive. The FAB glide bombs and other missiles on Ukrainian positions in urban areas. They're capable of really pulverizing entire cities in a matter of weeks. And the fact that the United States is telling Ukraine that they cannot strike these air bases that are full of these Su-34s. Now, Russia's definitely adapted since they know that Ukraine, could be given permission in the future, so they will probably spread them out further. But again, the fact that the United States has told Ukraine no is really disappointing and frustrating to me. And it's a total failure in terms of foreign policy, whether it be with Russia, Iran, Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas. They haven't deterred terrorists to stop. And again, such actions only signal weakness from the United States and its partners, which only emboldens then the enemies to push their luck and continue attacking and continue conducting terrorist operations, as we've seen. And so, if there's one thing to take away here, is that Ukraine needs to rely on itself and absolutely needs to continue investing into its own missile program, so it can only rely on itself and not have to ask permission from whether it be United States or England or France or other countries to use their weapons against Russian targets within Russia. And by pure coincidence, today actually, Zelensky, or maybe not, he mentioned that he allocated more funds towards the missile program. Ukraine has a very good missile program. We've seen the Neptunes that Ukraine has been very effective in the past, and Ukraine has also modified them a little bit to utilize them against other targets other than just ships. And also, I've talked about a few months ago, maybe even last year, that the Ukrainians started developing their ballistic missile program called the Hrom, and now there's a new iteration of this ballistic missile called Hrom 2, which apparently, based on Ukrainian sources, would have a range of up to 750 kilometers. Very, very important range for Ukraine, because Russia is a massive country and most of their air bases are within that 1,000 kilometer range. So that would allow the Ukrainians to strike most of Russian air bases, but it needs to rely on itself. And this missile program within Ukraine is extremely important, because as I've seen here, I don't think that the Biden administration will change their policy with regards to the ATACMS, and they will force Ukraine to just utilize them on Ukrainian occupied territory, unfortunately. And I want to finish my news update with some good news, and this is the aftermath of the drone attack by the Ukrainians on Morozovsk a few days ago. I shared some pictures of massive flames and explosions close to the airbase, and you can see what exploded. That was a massive ammunition dump that has been pulverized. The only thing standing is the watchtower, and I'm sure that the Russian soldier in the watchtower had a really great firework moment when that happened. But you can see that all of the FAB bombs and glide kits that were installed, and also some of the missiles that Russia had, have been destroyed. And this is really important. Imagine if Ukraine had the permission to utilize ballistics to attack air bases such as these and destroy all the ammunition that the Russians are currently using against Ukrainians, and destroy their also not only the Arrow but the Archer, the jet fighters. So this is a very high value target and great, brilliant operation by the Ukrainians. You can see that this is a huge loss for the Russians, but I can only hope that in the future Ukraine will be able to develop its own missile program, not only rely on long-range drones, but also its ballistic missiles, and start attacking Russian air bases and military bases within Russian territory. But this is just pure joy for me to watch and see the aftermath of such an attack. And if you guys have any money that you want to donate, please donate it to the Ukrainian drone program, any drone and the drone funds that exist in Ukraine, because they're really doing great work and they're allowing the Ukrainians to have a fighting chance against Russia. When you're seeing countries like the United States or other NATO countries, they're not, entirely all in helping Ukraine win the war against Russia. So that's the video update for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the update. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the current Ukrainian operation in Kursk. Subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my updates, like my video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!